My name is Margaret. I am 74 years old, and I am speaking to you from Charleston, South Carolina. Before I continue, please, if you are watching this right now, don't forget to subscribe, like, and click on that notification button so you won't miss any of my upcoming stories. And tell me, from which part of the country are you watching this? I really want to know. Now let me take you straight into the most terrifying moment of my life. I was lying in a hospital bed, my ribs still sore, my legs wrapped in heavy bandages. I had survived being pushed down the stairs by my daughter-in-law. Yes, you heard me right. She pushed me. She wanted me dead. Why? Because she and my son were desperate to take hold of the $20 million inheritance I had left behind in my will. When the police first came, I thought the truth would come out. But to my horror, my own son, the boy I raised with my own hands, told them I had simply slipped and fallen by accident. They nodded, wrote down his words, and left. That betrayal cut me deeper than the broken bones ever could. But the true terror came later that night. I was half asleep when I heard the door creak open. Footsteps tiptoed into my room. My daughter-in-law's perfume gave her away before I saw her face. Behind her was my son, his eyes hard, his jaw set like stone. I knew why they had come. They had failed the first time, and now they had returned to finish what they started. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure they could hear it. They whispered to each other, thinking I was too weak, too broken to notice. Then they drew closer to my bed. My son's hand reached for the pillow by my side. My daughter-in-law's eyes glowed with a cruel fire. But then, oh dear Lord, when they finally looked to the chair by my bedside, they froze. Their bodies stiffened. Their eyes widened in terror. And the color drained from their faces. Because sitting right beside me, silent and unblinking, was someone they never expected to see. Now, let me take you back to the beginning so you will understand how everything led to this moment. I was not always a rich woman. My life began with simplicity. I grew up on a farm, learned the value of hard work, and carried those lessons into adulthood. I married young, had 2 children, and together with my husband we built a life brick by brick. My husband was a clever man with investments, and when he passed away, God rest his soul, he left me not only with memories but also with wealth that grew over the years. I lived simply, never boasting, never wasting. I told myself my children would inherit everything, and they would continue the family's name with pride. But as life teaches us, money can reveal the truth about people's hearts. My son David was once a sweet boy. He loved fishing with his father, running in the fields and hugging me tight after church. But as he grew older, I began to see changes in him. He became greedy, restless, and careless with money. No matter how much I gave him, he always wanted more. And when he married Claire, my daughter-in-law, his greed doubled. She was a woman with beauty on the outside but darkness in her heart. At first she pretended to love me. She would bring me pies, smile sweetly, and call me Mom. But over time her mask slipped. She saw me as an obstacle, the old woman standing in the way of her golden life. I heard the way she hissed at David when she thought I wasn't listening. If only your mother would hurry up and go, we could live the life we deserve. Still, I prayed for her. I prayed for them both. But prayers do not stop wolves when they smell blood. The first real warning came one rainy night. I had gone to bed early, and I woke to find my jewelry box open. My wedding ring, the one my husband placed on my finger 50 years ago, was gone. I looked everywhere, but it never turned up. My heart told me who had taken it, but my lips kept silent. Why? Because I still believed in forgiveness. But forgiveness has its limits. The second warning was worse. One afternoon, I overheard them whispering in the kitchen. Claire said she's too old. She doesn't need all that money. We could do so much more with it. And David, my David replied, be patient. Once the will is read, it'll all be ours. That was the first time I felt a shiver run down my spine. They were not just careless with their words. They were plotting my end. Then came the night of the staircase. It was Mother's Day of all days. I had baked them a pie with my own hands. We had dinner together, laughter filling the house, or so I thought. Afterward, Claire offered to help me upstairs. Her hand was on my back, her voice sweet as honey. But halfway up, I felt the sudden cruel shove. My body tumbled down the hard wooden steps, bone cracking against each one. The world went black. When I woke up, I was in the hospital, pain stabbing me everywhere. My son stood at my side, his eyes full of fake concern. "Mom, you slipped. The police will understand." I wanted to scream the truth, but my lips were too dry, my throat too weak. I could only stare into his eyes, seeing the boy I raised now gone, replaced by a stranger. And yet the worst was still to come. Because later that night, when they came back to silence me forever, they did not expect to find that figure sitting beside me, watching, waiting. And the look on their faces. Oh, it was pure terror. But before I reveal who it was that sat there, let me take you step by step through how greed poisoned my family, how love turned into betrayal, and how faith and justice can rise even in the darkest times. The hospital lights hummed overhead, and I drifted in and out of memory, trying to make sense of everything. But one thing I knew for sure. Life was never going to be the same again. The figure sitting beside my bed that night was my brother Samuel. Claire's lips parted, and a sharp gasp escaped her throat. David froze, his hand hovering over the pillow, his jaw trembling as though he had seen a ghost. They thought Samuel was dead. Everyone did. My brother had disappeared 20 years ago after a bitter fight with his business partners. Rumors spread that he had been killed, that he ran away, or that he had gone mad. Even I hadn't seen him in over 2 decades. But here he was, sitting calmly in the chair by my bed, his tall frame casting a shadow across the room, his sharp eyes fixed on the 2 traitors who had come to kill me. Samuel leaned forward, his voice low but steady. "I knew you two would try something like this. That's why I came back." Claire stumbled backward, clutching David's arm. My son looked at me, then at Samuel, his face pale as chalk. For once he was speechless. The room felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. I wanted to speak, to shout for help, but my throat still burned from the fall. Samuel placed a protective hand on my arm. "Don't worry, Margaret. I won't let them hurt you again." The tension shattered when a nurse entered suddenly, carrying a tray of medicines. Claire quickly plastered a fake smile. David shoved his hands into his pockets, and they both slipped out of the room, muttering excuses about getting some rest. When they were gone, I turned to Samuel, my eyes brimming with tears. "Why now? After all these years?" He sighed. "Because I found out about the inheritance. And I knew they'd never wait for you to pass naturally. Greed eats people alive, sister. I've seen it too many times." For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of safety. My brother was back. He was strong, fearless, and he owed me his loyalty. Still, questions swirled in my head. Where had he been? What had he done all these years? And most importantly, could I really trust him after so long? The following morning, the hospital buzzed with its usual rhythm. Beeping machines, shuffling nurses, and distant cries from other patients. David and Claire returned, pretending to care for me, but I could see the cold calculation behind their eyes. They didn't mention Samuel, didn't even dare to ask. It was as if his presence had burned itself into their fears. But as the day wore on, a new thought began to haunt me. Samuel hadn't just returned for me. He had returned for the money too. And later that evening, when I caught him on the phone whispering, "Don't worry, I'll make sure she signs the papers," a shiver colder than the night air crawled down my spine. I realized then, I wasn't just fighting against my son and daughter-in-law. I might have to fight my own brother too. I lay in that hospital bed, my eyes shut, but my ears wide open. Samuel's words echoed in my head like a curse. "Don't worry, I'll make sure she signs the papers." Who was he talking to? What papers? And why did his voice sound so much like the same hungry tone I had heard in David and Claire? My heart broke in a way the fall down the stairs never could. For a brief moment, I had believed my brother's sudden return was my miracle, my shield against the evil in my own house. But now I wondered if he, too, had come circling like a vulture, waiting for me to breathe my last. I stayed still as a statue until he hung up, and walked quietly back into the room. He looked down at me, his face calm, almost tender. "You should rest, Margaret. I'll be here all night to keep watch." I nodded, forcing a weak smile, but inside my mind was racing. Could I confront him? No. If he knew I had overheard, he might move faster to get whatever it was he wanted. I decided right then that I would play along, act as though I trusted him completely. But deep in my bones, I knew the truth. The fight for my life had just become more dangerous. The next morning, David and Claire returned again. Their smiles were painted on like masks at a carnival, bright but empty. They brought me flowers and chocolates, as if petals and sugar could erase betrayal. "Mom," David said smoothly, "Claire and I talked last night. We think it's best if you sign over power of attorney to me, just for a while. You know, so I can manage things while you're recovering." I stared at him, my heart sinking. Power of attorney. That must have been what Samuel was whispering about too. My son wasn't even patient enough to wait for me to leave this earth. He wanted control now, every last dollar, every property, every account. I leaned back against the pillows, pretending to consider it. "That's a big decision," I croaked softly. "Let me think on it." Claire's smile twitched at the corners, and I could almost see the frustration boiling beneath her skin. But David squeezed her hand, forcing her silence. "Of course, Mom. Take your time. We only want what's best for you." They left shortly after, whispering sharply to each other in the hallway. I could hear snatches of their voices. "She's stalling," Claire hissed. "We can't keep waiting." When the sound of their footsteps faded, Samuel leaned closer to me. "You're right to wait. Don't let them pressure you." I turned my face toward him, watching his expression carefully. His eyes looked steady, but I couldn't shake the memory of his phone call. "Don't worry, I'll make sure she signs the papers." I was trapped in a web, surrounded by wolves disguised as family. My son, my daughter-in-law, and maybe even my own brother. The hospital days dragged slowly. Nurses bustled in and out, offering me pain medicine, checking my blood pressure, and adjusting my four. I smiled at them, grateful for their kindness, because they were the only people in that building who weren't after something from me. One nurse in particular, a young woman named Emily, reminded me of myself when I was her age. Gentle, patient, and with an honest heart that shone through her eyes. One afternoon, when Samuel had stepped out and David and Claire hadn't yet arrived, I whispered to Emily, "Do you ever feel like everyone around you is wearing a mask?" She gave me a puzzled look, but squeezed my hand. "Sometimes. But the good thing about masks is that they always slip, Mrs. Margaret. The truth always shows itself." Her words planted a seed of hope in me. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps if I stayed quiet, if I watched carefully, their masks would slip and the world would see their true faces. That night, however, hope dimmed again. I awoke to find Samuel standing by the window, talking on the phone once more. His back was to me, his voice low. "No, she hasn't signed yet. But don't worry. I'll handle it. She trusts me. She always has." My heart twisted. He was using my trust as a weapon against me. For a moment, anger gave me strength, and I sat up straighter in bed than I had in days. I wanted to shout, to demand answers. But then he turned, catching sight of me awake, and his face softened into that brotherly smile I had known since childhood. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked gently, as if he had been doing nothing more sinister than admiring the stars outside the window. I forced myself to nod, just thinking about the old days. He came closer, tucking the blanket around me like he used to when we were children. "Don't think too hard, Margaret. You need your rest." I closed my eyes, pretending to drift back into sleep, but my mind stayed sharp. Every move he made, every word he spoke, I memorized. Because I had a growing feeling that the next attack might not come from Claire or David, but from Samuel himself. The next day brought a strange calm. David and Claire didn't visit. Samuel stayed close but quiet. Emily the nurse kept checking on me, her kindness a small flame in the darkness. For a few hours I let myself breathe, almost forgetting the storm that was surely brewing. But peace never lasts long when greed is in the air. Late in the evening, I was dozing when I felt a hand brush against mine. I opened my eyes, expecting to see Samuel or Emily. Instead, I saw Claire standing there alone. Her eyes glittered with something dangerous, and in her other hand, partly hidden by her coat, I caught a glimpse of a small bottle. "Don't make this harder than it has to be," she whispered. And just like that, the calm was gone. The dim light from the hallway spilled into my room, casting a glow on Claire's face. Her smile was thin, stretched tight, and in her trembling hand she clutched a small brown bottle. My mouth went dry. I didn't need anyone to tell me what was inside. I had seen enough crime stories on TV to know that a few drops of poison could silence a body forever. She leaned closer, her perfume wrapping around me like a snake. David doesn't know I came, she whispered. He thinks you'll just give in and sign everything over. But I'm tired of waiting, Margaret. You've lived long enough. It's time to let go. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My chest rose and fell, and the monitors beside me betrayed my fear with their steady beeping. I prayed silently for strength, for wisdom, for any kind of help. Claire twisted the bottle cap slowly, her eyes darting to the door to make sure no one was coming. I could put a few drops in your water, and no one would ever suspect. A 74-year-old woman in pain? They'd call it natural. I forced myself to speak, my voice weak but steady. Claire, if you do this, you'll never live in peace. Money can't buy you freedom from guilt. She laughed softly, the sound chilling my bones. Guilt is for people who fail. I don't plan on failing. My heart thudded harder. I thought of my husband, of the years we worked to build a life. I thought of David as a little boy, running through fields with laughter in his voice. I thought of how far he had fallen under Claire's spell. And then I thought of Samuel. If he was truly here to protect me, he had to return soon. If not, then maybe this was the end. Claire raised the bottle, ready to pour its contents into my glass of water on the bedside table. My pulse quickened, the beeping from the machines growing louder, sharper. Just as the first drop was about to fall, the door swung open. Samuel stepped inside. His eyes locked onto the bottle in Claire's hand, and his face hardened into steel. What do you think you're doing? His voice boomed through the room, making Claire flinch. She shoved the bottle into her pocket and forced a shaky smile. Oh, nothing. Just checking on her. But Samuel wasn't fooled. He stepped closer, his tall frame towering over her. Leave. Now. Claire hesitated, her lips pressed tight, then stormed out of the room without another word. The silence left behind was heavier than any words. Samuel turned to me, his eyes searching mine. She's getting desperate, he said quietly. I wanted to believe he was on my side. But as I stared at him, I couldn't forget the sound of his whispered phone calls. Maybe Claire wasn't the only one I had to fear. The room was still heavy after Claire stormed out. The scent of her perfume lingered like poison in the air. Samuel pulled the chair closer to my bed and sat down, his hands clasped tightly together. You see what I mean, Margaret? He said, his voice firm but low. She's dangerous. If I hadn't walked in just now, he trailed off, shaking his head. I studied his face carefully. His words were right, but something in his eyes unsettled me. Was it concern or calculation? Was he protecting me, or protecting the inheritance he also wanted? Thank you, I whispered. But tell me, Samuel, where have you been all these years? Why come back now? He leaned back in the chair, sighing deeply. That's a long story. I left because of business gone bad. People thought I was dead, but I had to disappear for my own safety. I've been moving from place to place, surviving. When I heard about your wealth and the mess David has made of his life, I knew I couldn't stay away any longer. You needed someone you could trust. His words sounded rehearsed, like a story told too many times. But I didn't press further. My body was too weak, and my mind was already clouded with fear. That night I barely slept. Every creak in the hallway made my heart race. Was it Claire sneaking back with the bottle? Was it David, finally ready to finish what they had started on the stairs? Or was it Samuel plotting in the shadows? In the morning, David arrived alone. He sat at my bedside, avoiding my eyes. For the first time, I saw cracks in his mask. His hands shook, and his voice was quieter than usual. Mom, he said, you don't understand. Claire, she pushes me. She makes me do things I don't want to do. But you have to believe me. I never wanted to hurt you. His words pierced me, but they didn't heal me. Tears welled in my eyes. Then why did you lie to the police? I asked softly. Why did you say I fell by accident? He looked down, shame crossing his face. Because I was scared. Scared of her. Scared of losing everything. For a brief moment, I saw my little boy again, lost and afraid. But before I could answer, the door opened. Claire stepped in, her eyes blazing when she saw us talking. "Enough, David," she snapped. "Stop pretending you care." She turned her glare on me, her voice like venom. "Sign the papers, Margaret. Or next time, Samuel won't be here to stop me." The room fell into silence, her threat hanging heavy in the air. And in that silence, I realized the storm was only getting worse. The silence in that room was like ice. Claire's words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. "Sign the papers, Margaret. Or next time, Samuel won't be here to stop me." Her voice echoed in my mind even after she stormed out. My chest tightened, and the beeping from the heart monitor betrayed my racing pulse. David sat frozen in the chair, his face pale, his eyes darting between me and the door where Claire had disappeared. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but no words came. He looked like a man torn in two, part of him still my son, the boy I raised, and the other part bound to Claire's poisonous hold. I reached for his trembling hand. "David," I whispered, "listen to me. Money can be replaced. A house, a car, jewelry, all of that can come and go. But a mother's love, once broken, can never be mended. You've let her drag you into the darkness, but you still have a choice. You can step back into the light." His lips quivered. For a moment, I saw guilt swimming in his eyes. But then he pulled his hand away, staring at the floor. "It's not that simple, Mom. You don't know Claire like I do. She doesn't let go. If I defy her, she'll ruin me." I wanted to tell him that he was already ruined if he let her dictate his soul. But before I could, Samuel returned. His face was stern, his posture tall and unyielding. He looked at David with the kind of disappointment only a brother-in-law could carry. "You're a coward," Samuel said flatly. "Your wife tried to poison your mother, and you just sit there like a frightened child? Shame on you." David's jaw tightened. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I know enough," Samuel shot back. "You sold your soul to that woman, and now you'll lose everything." The tension between them was thick, almost unbearable. I raised my hand weakly. "Enough," I whispered. "This family is tearing itself apart, and it's killing me faster than any poison ever could." For a brief moment, silence fell again. Samuel lowered himself into the chair by my side, his large hand wrapping gently around mine. "Don't worry, Margaret. I'll protect you." But his words didn't bring me peace. They only brought more questions. Who was he really protecting, me or the inheritance? Later that afternoon, the hospital seemed to quiet down. Nurses moved in and out, the buzz of activity fading as visiting hours closed. I finally drifted into a restless sleep, my dreams filled with shadows whispering my name. When I woke, the room was dark except for the faint glow of the monitor. I turned my head and nearly screamed. Samuel wasn't in his chair. Instead, Claire was standing by my bedside again, her face half hidden by the dim light. "Don't scream," she hissed, holding up the same brown bottle. "I told you this would be easier if you just signed the papers. But you're stubborn. And stubborn people, they don't live long." My mouth went dry, my heart pounding against my ribs. "Where's Samuel?" I croaked. She smirked. "Out of the way. He won't bother us tonight." I didn't know if that meant she had locked him out or something worse. My throat tightened as I saw her uncork the bottle, her hand steady this time. I prayed silently, "God, give me strength. Protect me from this evil." Just as she tilted the bottle toward my glass, the door creaked open. A small gasp escaped from the figure who entered. It wasn't Samuel. It wasn't David. It was Emily, the young nurse. Her eyes widened as she saw Claire holding the bottle. For a moment, the room froze in silence. Claire's hand trembled, but then she quickly shoved the bottle into her coat pocket, forcing a fake smile. "Oh, just giving Margaret some water. She gets so thirsty at night." But Emily wasn't fooled. She stepped closer, her voice firm. "I saw what you were about to do. I'm reporting this." Claire's smile broke into a snarl. "You little fool. Do you think anyone will believe you over me? I'm family. You're just a nurse." Emily's chin lifted bravely. "Family doesn't try to kill each other." Before Claire could respond, the hallway lights flickered, and footsteps echoed outside the door. Heavy, hurried footsteps. Claire's face paled, and without another word, she bolted from the room, brushing past whoever was approaching. The door swung wide, and Samuel rushed in, his face red with anger. "What happened?" he demanded. Emily turned to him, her voice trembling. She was trying to poison her. I saw it with my own eyes. Samuel's jaw clenched. His eyes burned with fury as he looked at me. "This ends tonight. I'll take care of it." He stormed out before I could stop him. Emily squeezed my hand, her voice shaky but comforting. "Don't worry, Mrs. Margaret. You're not alone anymore. I'll stay with you." Her words soothed me, but fear still gnawed at my heart. What did Samuel mean by, "I'll take care of it"? Was he going after Claire to protect me? Or was he planning something else entirely? Minutes stretched into hours, the night dragging on painfully slow. The hospital was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you uneasy. Emily sat by my side, her presence calming, but my mind raced with dark possibilities. And then just before dawn, the door creaked open again. This time it wasn't Claire. It wasn't Samuel. It was David, and in his hand was a bloodied knife. The sight of my son standing in the doorway with a bloodied knife nearly stopped my heart. The dim hospital lights flickered across his pale face, his eyes dark and wild. His shirt was untucked, his hair disheveled, and the knife trembled slightly in his grip. Emily let out a sharp gasp and instinctively placed herself between me and him. "David," she said firmly, her voice shaking but brave. "What have you done?" He didn't answer at first. His chest heaved, his eyes locked on me, and for a moment, I thought he might collapse under the weight of whatever sin had driven him here. Finally, his lips parted. "It's Samuel," he whispered hoarsely. "He's gone." I had no choice. My body turned cold. Gone. No choice. My brother? Emily's hand tightened on the bedrail, her knuckles white. "You killed him?" she asked, her voice trembling. David's face twisted, torn between guilt and rage. "He was threatening us. He said he was going to the police, that he would expose everything. He said Mom was going to change her will and cut me out completely. I couldn't let that happen. He left me no choice." Tears burned in my eyes. "David," I whispered, "listen to yourself. You've crossed a line you can't come back from. First you betrayed me, and now your own uncle? How many lives must you destroy before you see the truth?" He shook his head violently, the knife trembling more in his hand. "I did it for us, Mom. For Claire and me. You don't understand. You never supported me, never trusted me. Everything you and Dad built. It was always for you, never for me." His words cut deeper than the knife ever could. I thought of all the years I had sacrificed for him, the nights I went without so he could have more, the prayers I whispered for his success. And here he was, standing before me, blinded by greed and poisoned by Claire's influence. Emily stepped forward cautiously. "David, put the knife down. We can talk about this. You're in shock. You don't know what you're saying." But David's eyes were wild, darting around the room as though searching for an escape. "No one will believe you," he muttered. "They'll think Samuel disappeared just like before. Claire and we can make it look like an accident." He moved closer to the bed, and instinctively, Emily spread her arms wider, shielding me with her small frame. My heart raced, but something inside me stirred. Not fear, but resolve. "David," I said, forcing my voice to rise, "look at me. I am your mother, the woman who gave you life. If you take another step, if you do this, there will be no turning back. You'll lose me forever, not because I'll be gone, but because I will never forgive you, even in the grave." His steps faltered. His grip on the knife loosened ever so slightly. For a fleeting second, I saw the little boy who once cried in my arms after scraping his knee. His lips quivered, his eyes wet. But then Claire's voice echoed from the hallway. "David, don't listen to her. Finish it." Her shadow stretched across the doorway, her presence as venomous as ever. And just like that, the spell of my words broke. David's face hardened. He raised the knife higher, his arm trembling with the weight of the decision. Emily cried out, "Stop!" and lunged at him, grabbing his wrist. The two struggled, the blade glinting dangerously in the fluorescent light. I screamed, my voice raw. "David, no." The struggle lasted seconds but felt like hours. The knife swung wildly, and suddenly there was a cry of pain. It wasn't David's. Emily staggered back, clutching her arm where a red line of blood began to bloom. The knife had cut her. She gasped, her face pale but determined, and she pressed herself against the bed again, shielding me with her wounded arm. "You'll have to go through me first," she spat through clenched teeth. David froze, breathing heavily, staring at the blood on her sleeve. His hands shook. "I didn't mean." But Claire's voice sliced through the moment like a blade. "Don't be weak, David. She's just a nurse. Do it and be done with it." The madness in Claire's words jolted me. She had turned my son into a puppet, pulling his strings until he no longer knew right from wrong. But as I looked at David's trembling hands and watery eyes, I saw that a piece of him still remained. "David," I said again, softer this time, pleading. "It's not too late. Drop the knife. Save yourself before she drags you all the way into hell." For the first time his hand began to lower. His eyes flickered with doubt. And then the door burst open. 2 police officers rushed in, guns drawn, shouting, "Drop the weapon!" David spun in shock, the knife still in his hand, and Claire shrieked from the hallway. The room filled with chaos. Emily crying, the officers shouting, my son trembling as if the world itself was closing in on him. And then, in the middle of the chaos, David made his choice. He turned the knife. Not toward me, not toward Emily, but toward himself. Time seemed to stop. The knife hovered in David's trembling hands, his face twisted with fear, guilt, and desperation. The police officers shouted again, their guns steady, their voices sharp. "Drop the weapon. Don't do it." But David didn't drop it. With a choked sob, he pressed the blade against his chest. "David," I cried, my voice breaking. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. "Don't you dare. You're my son. Don't take yourself away from me." His eyes flicked to mine, and for the briefest second, I saw the little boy who once clung to my hand on his first day of school. His lips trembled, and tears streaked his cheeks. "I'm sorry, Mom," he whispered. Then the blade pressed deeper. One of the officers lunged forward, knocking David's arm aside before the knife could pierce too far. The weapon clattered to the floor, sliding under the bed. David collapsed onto his knees, his body shaking, his sobs raw and broken. Claire shrieked from the doorway. "Coward! Useless coward!" She spun around to run, but the second officer grabbed her by the arm. She kicked and screamed, spitting curses as they forced her inside the room. The scene was chaos. David sobbing on the floor, Claire thrashing like a wild animal, Emily clutching her bleeding arm, the officers struggling to keep control. And there I was, weak and broken in the bed, my heart aching more than my injuries ever could. "Mom," David sobbed, crawling toward me on his knees. "I never meant for it to go this far. I just wanted to be enough." Tears blurred my vision. I reached out my trembling hand, touching his face gently. "You were always enough, David. You just let greed blind you." His body shook harder, and he buried his face in my hand, weeping like a child. Claire snarled at the sight, her eyes blazing with fury. "Don't pity him, Margaret. He's weak. We could have had everything if not for you." The officer tightened his grip on her arm. "That's enough. You're under arrest." As they dragged her struggling form out of the room, her final words echoed behind her like poison. "This isn't over. You'll regret this, all of you." David was left sobbing at my bedside, his whole body trembling. Emily, pale but steady, leaned close to me and whispered, "She's dangerous. Even locked up, she won't stop." And as I held my broken son's face in my palm, I realized the storm was far from over. The echoes of Claire's screams still rattled the hospital walls long after the officers dragged her away. Even when the door shut, I could still hear her voice in my head. "This isn't over. You'll regret this, all of you." Her words clung to me like a curse. David knelt at my bedside, his body trembling, his face buried in my hand. His tears stained my skin hot and bitter. For the first time in years, he looked like my little boy again, fragile, lost, and begging for forgiveness. "Mom," he sobbed, "I ruined everything. I ruined us. I didn't protect you. I lied for her. And now Samuel. Oh God, Samuel." At the mention of my brother's name, a sharp pain stabbed through my chest. The image of David standing in the doorway with the bloodied knife replayed in my mind. he said Samuel was gone. But what did that truly mean? Did my brother lie somewhere in the hospital, bleeding? Or had David done something far worse? Emily placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Mrs. Margaret, we need to get you calm. This stress isn't good for you. But calm was impossible. My family was shattered, and danger still loomed around us. The officers pulled David to his feet. He's coming with us, one of them said gruffly. He's part of this mess. David didn't resist. His head hung low, his shoulders slumped in defeat. As they cuffed his wrists, he looked back at me one last time. I'm sorry, Mom. I'll never forgive myself. I wanted to call out, to beg them to be gentle with him, but the words caught in my throat. All I could do was watch as my only son was led away in chains, the sound of his sobs echoing down the hallway until it faded into silence. The room was still again, except for the steady beep of my monitor. Emily sat beside me, her arm still bandaged from the knife wound. Her bravery humbled me. She was just a nurse, yet she had shielded me with her own body, something even my son couldn't do. You're stronger than you think, she whispered, squeezing my hand. Don't give up now. You've survived this much already. I nodded weakly, though my heart ached. I don't know what's left to survive for. My family, it's gone. She shook her head firmly. No, it's not gone. Broken maybe, but not gone. People can change. Even David. Her words gave me the faintest flicker of hope, but doubt still clung to me. Greed had poisoned my family so deeply. Could love really wash it clean? Hours passed slowly. Doctors came and went, checking my injuries, adjusting medications. Emily remained by my side, refusing to leave me alone. I drifted in and out of sleep, haunted by dreams of staircases, bottles of poison, and Samuel's piercing eyes. When I awoke later that night, the hospital room was dim and quiet. Emily had dozed off in the chair beside me, her chest rising and falling softly. For the first time in days, peace touched me. But peace never lasts long when shadows linger. The door creaked open slowly, the sound slicing through the silence. My heart jumped. I strained my eyes through the dim light, half expecting to see Claire breaking free, her fury returning. Instead, a figure stepped inside slowly. It was Samuel. My breath caught. His clothes were rumpled, his face pale, but his eyes were sharp and alive. Margaret, he said softly, stepping closer. It's me. Relief washed over me like a flood. Samuel, you're alive. David said. He said you were gone. My voice broke. Samuel pulled up a chair and sat beside me. He tried. But he couldn't finish it. I fought back. He panicked and ran. The blood was mine, yes, but it wasn't deep. I've had worse. Tears spilled from my eyes. Oh, Samuel. I thought I lost you. He reached for my hand, his grip strong. You'll never lose me again. Not to him, not to Claire, not to anyone. You're safe now. For the first time in a long while, I allowed myself to believe it. My brother was alive. My son was in custody. Claire was taken away. Maybe, just maybe, the storm was passing. But even as I held onto Samuel's hand, a whisper of doubt stirred in my heart. Because I remembered his phone calls. His promises to someone on the other end of the line. His words, "Don't worry, I'll make sure she signs the papers." As if sensing my unease, Samuel leaned closer. His voice dropped low, almost secretive. "Margaret, there's something you need to know. About the inheritance. About what's really been going on." My chest tightened. His eyes glimmered in the dim light, and I couldn't tell if it was truth or something darker. Before he could continue, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed in the hallway. The door swung open and 2 officers stepped inside, their expressions grim. "Mrs. Margaret," one said firmly, "we need to talk. There's been another incident." My heart sank. Another? What more could possibly happen? And then he said the words that froze my blood. "Claire has escaped custody." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Claire has escaped custody. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Emily stirred awake at the sound, her eyes widening the moment she heard. Samuel's grip on my hand tightened until it almost hurt. "How?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "You had her in chains. How could she be gone?" The officer's jaw clenched. She attacked one of the deputies during transfer, stole his weapon and fled. We've set up a perimeter, but she's clever. Dangerous. We need you to stay alert. My heart hammered. If Claire was free, she wouldn't rest until she finished what she started. I could almost hear her venomous voice again. This isn't over. You'll regret this. Emily stood quickly, her protective nature rising once more. This hospital isn't safe. You need more security for Mrs. Margaret. Double the guards. No one gets in here without clearance. The officers nodded. We'll make arrangements. They gave Samuel a suspicious glance as though questioning why he was here at this hour, but said nothing and left the room. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. I could feel fear pressing down on me like a weight. Samuel leaned close, his expression grim. I told you, Margaret. Claire is like a serpent. Even when you cut her down, she finds a way to slither back. You can't let your guard down, not for a second. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. But what if she comes here? What if she comes for me? She will, Samuel said flatly. That's exactly what she'll do. Emily's eyes flashed with determination. Then she'll have to go through all of us first. She won't touch you again. Her courage was admirable, but deep inside I knew the truth. Claire wasn't the type to give up. If she was out there, she was already planning her next move. That night, as the lights dimmed and the hospital fell into uneasy quiet, I lay awake staring at the shadows on the ceiling. Every creak of the floor, every distant sound in the hallway made my skin crawl. Was she out there, watching, waiting? I thought of David, locked away, broken and guilty. I thought of Samuel, alive but carrying secrets of his own. And I thought of Claire, wild-eyed, furious, vowing revenge. Sleep finally tugged at my weary eyes, but even in dreams, I couldn't escape her. I saw her face, twisted with rage, as she whispered in my ear. You can't hide forever, Margaret. I'm coming for you. I woke with a start, drenched in sweat. The clock on the wall glowed past midnight. The room was quiet. Too quiet. And then I saw it. A shadow moved across the hallway outside my door. The shadow slid across the hallway, long and slithering, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. My breath caught in my throat, my body stiff against the bed. The hum of the hospital machine suddenly seemed louder, the steady beep of my heart monitor betraying my fear. I strained my ears. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, almost taunting. Was it a nurse making rounds? Or was it her? I turned my head toward Emily. She was still in the chair beside me, her head tilted, her breathing slow and steady. She had fallen asleep again, exhausted from guarding me. My lips parted, desperate to call her name, but the sound lodged in my throat. If I spoke too loud, whoever was in the hallway would know I was awake. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then the faintest creak of the doorknob turning. My heart slammed against my ribs. My pulse raced so wildly that the monitor beeped faster, betraying me. Emily stirred at the noise, her eyes fluttering open. What? She started to whisper, but I pressed a trembling finger to my lips. The knob turned again, this time with more force. The door cracked open an inch. A strip of pale hallway light sliced across the floor. Emily shot to her feet, instantly alert. She reached for the call button beside my bed, pressing it frantically. Security to room 214, she hissed into the speaker. The door opened wider. And then I saw her. Claire. Her hair was wild, her face twisted with fury, her clothes torn as though she had fought her way through the world to get here. And in her hand, glinting under the fluorescent lights, was a knife. I gasped so sharply it hurt. No. Emily moved in front of me, her body trembling but her voice firm. Stay back, Claire. The police are on their way. Claire sneered, stepping inside and shutting the door behind her with a soft click. The police won't save her this time. They think I'm gone, but I'm smarter than them. Smarter than all of you. Her eyes landed on me, sharp and venomous. Margaret. You ruined everything. $20 million, my future. David's future. All gone because of your stubbornness. Tears burned my eyes. Claire, listen to yourself. This isn't love for David. This is greed. Pure greed. Greed, she spat, her voice cracking. Do you know what it's like to grow up with nothing? To claw your way through life, watching people like you live in mansions, while I struggled to feed myself. That money was my chance. My justice. Emily stood firm. You'll get nothing but prison if you touch her. Claire's lips curled into a chilling smile. Then maybe I'll start with you. Just to remind her what happens when someone gets in my way. She lunged. Emily grabbed the nearest object, a metal tray from the bedside table, and swung it with all her strength. The tray clashed against Claire's arm, and the knife clattered to the floor. Both women scrambled, Claire shrieking with rage, Emily shouting for help. I could do nothing but watch, my weak body tethered to machines. Fear squeezed my chest so tightly I thought I might suffocate. The hallway erupted with pounding footsteps. The door burst open, and 2 hospital security guards rushed inside, followed by the officers who had warned me earlier. Claire let out a guttural scream and dove for the knife, but one officer tackled her to the ground before her fingers could reach it. She thrashed and kicked, her screams filling the room. You'll never stop me. Never. This isn't the end. They cuffed her wrists and forced her to her feet, dragging her toward the door. She twisted her head to glare at me one last time, her eyes burning with hatred. You think you've won, Margaret? She screamed. As long as I breathe, you'll never be safe. The door slammed behind her, and the silence that followed was deafening. I collapsed back against the pillows, my chest heaving, my entire body trembling from the terror that had just unfolded. Emily leaned against the wall, her shoulders shaking, tears streaking her cheeks. She had fought with everything she had to protect me. One of the officers stayed behind, his face grim. She's being transported to a maximum security facility this time. No more slip-ups. We'll station guards outside your room until further notice. I nodded weakly, though my heart still pounded. Claire was gone again, but her words lingered. As long as I breathe, you'll never be safe. When the room finally quieted again, Samuel stepped forward from the corner where he had hidden during the chaos. His face was pale, his eyes unreadable. Margaret, he said softly, you see now, don't you? The money is a curse. It's tearing everyone apart. David, Claire, even me. I stared at him, my brother whom I had trusted all my life. His words chilled me, not because of what he said, but because of the strange way he said it, as if he wasn't warning me but confessing. What do you mean, Samuel? I whispered. He sighed heavily, his eyes meeting mine. There are things you don't know. Things I've hidden from you. About the inheritance. About why Claire came after you in the first place. My stomach dropped. What things? Before he could answer, the overhead speakers crackled to life with a hospital-wide alert. Code red. Security breach in Wing C. All staff proceed with caution. Emily's face paled. Oh no. And once again, fear clenched my heart like a fist. The hospital speakers crackled again. Code red. Security breach in Wing C. The words echoed through the walls like a drumbeat of doom. My stomach clenched. Emily straightened instantly, her eyes darting toward the door. Samuel stiffened, his jaw tightening, though he said nothing. What does that mean? I whispered, my voice shaky. Emily turned to me, her face pale. Code red usually means fire, or a violent intruder. Either way, it's bad. The beeping of my heart monitor quickened, betraying my fear. Could it be Claire again? But no, I had just watched them drag her out in handcuffs. Still, her words haunted me. As long as I breathe, you'll never be safe. The door burst open, and a nurse rushed in, her eyes wide. We need to move you, Mrs. Margaret. Now. This wing isn't secure. Emily grabbed my hand. She's too weak to move without help. Get a gurney. The nurse bolted, leaving us in tense silence. My body trembled, but my mind raced faster. Something about Samuel's face bothered me. He wasn't panicked, not like the rest of us. He looked expectant, almost as though he knew this was coming. Samuel. I whispered, my eyes narrowing. What aren't you telling me? His gaze met mine, steady, unreadable. Not here. Not now. But soon, Margaret. Very soon you'll understand everything. Before I could press further, the nurse returned with 2 orderlies pushing a gurney. Emily helped them transfer me onto it, whispering reassurances as though her voice could shield me from the chaos. As they wheeled me out into the hallway, The smell of smoke hit me. My heart lurched. This wasn't just a drill. Something was burning. Alarms wailed overhead. Red lights flashing along the corridor. Staff hurried in all directions, some pushing patients in wheelchairs, others carrying medical supplies. Through the haze of panic, I caught sight of something that froze my blood. At the far end of the hallway, half hidden in the smoke, a figure stood watching us. Tall. Still. Familiar. Even through the blur, I could swear I saw her. Claire. My breath hitched. She's here. I whispered hoarsely. She's here. Emily's head snapped up, her eyes scanning the smoke. Who? But the figure vanished into the chaos before anyone else could see. The orderlies pushed faster, but my heart sank deeper. Whether it was real or a trick of fear, I knew one thing for certain. The nightmare wasn't over. It had only just begun. The gurney wheels squeaked loudly against the tiled floor as the orderlies rushed me down the smoke-filled corridor. Red alarm lights pulsed along the walls, casting everything in a frantic glow. Emily clung to my side, her eyes darting in every direction, protective and fierce. But my gaze lingered behind us, searching through the haze for that figure I had seen. Claire. I was certain of it. Her shape, her stance, the malice in her stillness. But how could that be? She had been dragged away in chains, screaming. Could she have escaped again? The thought churned my stomach. Samuel walked briskly beside us, keeping up easily. Unlike the others, he wasn't coughing from the smoke or looking panicked. He was calm, too calm. Every so often, his eyes flicked toward the far ends of the hallway, as though checking something. Samuel, I rasped, my voice trembling. I saw her. Claire. She was there. Emily frowned, trying to reassure me. It could have been the smoke playing tricks on you. Don't push yourself. No. I cut her off sharply. It was her. I know it. Samuel didn't argue. He simply said, if she's here, then she's after you, Margaret. And that means you're not safe anywhere. Something in his tone chilled me. Not protective. Not frightened. Just factual. The orderlies turned sharply, pushing me toward the emergency stairwell. More patients crowded the area, nurses trying desperately to keep order while alarms wailed overhead. The smell of smoke grew stronger, making my throat burn. As we waited for clearance to descend, Samuel leaned close to me. His face was shadowed by the flashing red light. There's something you need to understand about Claire, he murmured. She didn't come up with this plan on her own. She had help. My heart thudded. Help. From who? His lips curled into a tight smile. From me. The air left my lungs. I stared at him in shock, my voice breaking. What are you saying? Emily caught the tension and whipped her head toward him. What did you just say? Samuel's eyes gleamed. Do you think Claire had the brains to come after $20 million on her own? No. She needed guidance. She needed someone who knew the family inside out. Someone who knew where the will was kept. Someone she could trust. Tears burned my eyes. Samuel, no. Tell me this isn't true. But his smirk only widened. You always thought you were the clever one, Margaret. The strong one. But you forget. I've lived in your shadow all my life. Everything was yours. The money. The respect. The family name. And me? Always the brother on the sidelines. Always the one who got scraps. Emily's face twisted in horror. You helped Claire try to kill your own sister? Samuel's voice hardened. I didn't help her. I let her. Every step of the way. She was desperate, hungry, willing to do whatever I told her. She wanted the money. I wanted revenge. Together it was perfect. The stairwell door banged open, and the orderlies began pushing me down the steps carefully. My body jolted with each bump, but my mind was spinning far worse. Samuel, I whispered, my voice cracking. You were supposed to protect me. You were all I had left. He leaned over the gurney, his eyes cold. You were never supposed to live this long. When she pushed you down those stairs, that should have been it. But you survived. And now? Now you've ruined everything. Emily stepped between us, her voice sharp. Don't you dare come near her again. If the police find out what you've done. Samuel chuckled darkly. The police? Do you really think they'll believe the word of a dying old woman and a nurse over mine? I've covered my tracks well. Claire will take the fall and I'll walk free. At that moment a loud crash echoed from below. Shouts erupted in the stairwell. The orderlies stopped abruptly, trying to see what had happened. Smoke curled up from the lower floors, thicker now, making it harder to breathe. And then from the smoke, a scream. High-pitched. Familiar. Claire's voice. "Margaret!" she shrieked, her voice echoing up the stairwell. "You can't hide from me." Panic rippled through the crowd of patients and staff. Nurses shouted. Orderlies tried to push people back, but fear spread faster than the fire itself. I grabbed Emily's hand, my voice trembling. "She's here. Samuel was right. She's after me." But Emily wasn't looking at Claire's direction. She was staring at Samuel, her eyes wide with realization. "You knew she'd be here," she accused. "That's why you're not afraid. You planned this with her." Samuel's lips curved into a sly smile. "You catch on quick, nurse." "Yes. Claire was supposed to meet me here. But she's early." My body went numb. Betrayal upon betrayal. My brother, the one I had trusted all my life, had not only betrayed me, but had been working with the very woman who tried to kill me. The stairwell erupted in chaos as people tried to escape, pushing and shoving. Through the smoke, Claire's shadowy figure began climbing the steps, the glint of a knife flashing in her hand once again. Emily pulled the gurney back up, toward the safer floors, her voice urgent. "We have to move her now." But Samuel didn't follow. He stayed rooted in place, his eyes locked on mine, his expression chilling. "You can run all you want, Margaret," he called after us. "But the truth will catch you. And when it does, it won't be Claire you'll fear most. It'll be me." Smoke swallowed his figure as Claire's laughter echoed closer, and I realized with horror that I was trapped between two predators, one made of fire and fury, and the other of cold, calculated betrayal. The stairwell was a nightmare of smoke, screams, and chaos. Nurses pushed patients upward, coughing as the fire raged below. Claire's laughter rose through the haze, sharp and wild, chilling every bone in my body. Emily gripped the gurney, pulling me back toward safety, her face slick with sweat. "Hold on, Mrs. Margaret. We'll get through this." But my eyes kept darting down the stairwell. Through the swirling smoke, Claire's shadow climbed steadily, her knife gleaming each time the red alarm lights flashed. She was unstoppable, fueled by madness. And worse, Samuel had vanished into the haze. "Emily," I croaked, my throat burning. "He's with her. Samuel's with her." Her eyes flicked to me, wide with shock. "Your brother?" "No. He can't. He planned this," I whispered, my voice breaking. "He let her." Before Emily could reply, Claire's voice rang out, closer now. "You can't run forever, Margaret. That money is mine." The orderlies pushed faster, shoving through panicked patients, clogging the hallway. My gurney jolted over a bump, pain shooting through my battered body. Every sound, the fire alarms, the cries, the pounding footsteps, felt like a drumbeat of doom. We reached a side corridor, the smoke slightly thinner here. Emily and the orderlies pushed me through, but suddenly, a figure stepped out of the haze ahead. Samuel. His face was calm, almost serene, as though the chaos around him was nothing. His eyes locked on me, cold and determined. "It ends tonight, Margaret," he said softly. "No more running. No more lies." Emily shoved the gurney behind her, planting herself like a shield. "Stay back," she snapped, her voice fierce despite her shaking hands. Samuel's lips curled into a thin smile. "You think you can stop this? You're just a nurse. You don't understand what's at stake." And then Claire emerged from the smoke behind him, her eyes blazing with fury, her knife raised high. Together, side by side, they looked like death itself. Trapped. No way forward. No way back. My heart pounded so loudly it drowned out the alarms. For the first time, I truly believed I wouldn't survive the night. The corridor was suffocating with heat, smoke curling through the cracks in the ceiling. My chest heaved as I struggled to breathe, my frail body shaking on the gurney. Yet the terror in my heart wasn't from the fire. It was from the two figures standing before me. Samuel, my own brother, calm and calculating. Claire, my daughter-in-law, wild-eyed with greed, clutching the knife as though it were an extension of her soul. Together they blocked every escape. Emily's hands tightened on the gurney, her body tense like a soldier preparing for war. She stood firmly between them and me, her voice trembling but resolute. "You'll have to go through me first." Samuel chuckled, his voice low and mocking. "So noble. But you don't understand what you're protecting. This isn't just money. It's justice. Margaret has lived her whole life like a queen, while the rest of us were left to rot in her shadow." His words cut deeper than any knife. Tears pricked my eyes. "Samuel, I never tried to take anything from you. You were my brother. I loved you." But he sneered. "Love. You call it love when you hoarded every bit of father's inheritance, every opportunity, every ounce of respect? You lived in the spotlight, Margaret, while I was left to crawl in the dark." Claire stepped forward, her knife catching the red glow of the alarm lights. "Enough talk. She has to die, Samuel. That's the only way we get the money." The flames crackled louder somewhere in the building, beams groaning as the structure weakened. Time was running out. Emily glanced over her shoulder at me, whispering fiercely, "Hold on, Mrs. Margaret. Don't you dare give up now." But my eyes stayed on Samuel. "Brother, listen to me. That $20 million isn't just mine. If you had needed me, I would have given you everything. But instead you chose betrayal. You let hatred consume you." For the briefest moment, his expression faltered, a flicker of hesitation. But Claire's shrill voice shattered it. "Don't listen to her lies. She'll never give you a penny. She wants it all for herself. That's why she kept living, even after I pushed her down those stairs. She's too stubborn to die." She lunged forward, her knife raised high. Emily screamed and shoved me sideways, the gurney rattling as it slammed into the wall. Claire's blade missed my chest by inches, the steel sparking against the wall tiles. Emily grabbed a metal tray from a cart and swung it hard, striking Claire's arm. The knife clattered to the floor. Claire shrieked in rage, clawing at Emily's hair. "Run!" Emily yelled at the orderlies, who hesitated in fear. "Get her out of here." But Samuel stepped in front of the gurney, blocking their path. His hand slipped inside his coat, pulling out something that froze my blood cold, a pistol. "You're not leaving," he hissed. "This ends tonight." The orderlies backed away, terrified, leaving Emily and me exposed. Claire scrambled to grab her knife again, her face twisted in madness. Samuel raised the gun, his hand steady. And in that moment I knew, if I didn't act now, neither Emily nor I would leave this hospital alive. With every ounce of strength left in my battered body, I pushed myself up from the gurney, ignoring the searing pain in my ribs. My voice rose, sharp and commanding, echoing above the alarms and chaos. "Samuel, if you kill me, you'll never see a cent of that money. The will, it's already been changed. Everything goes to charity if I die unnaturally. If I'm murdered, you get nothing." His eyes widened, his grip on the gun trembling for the first time. "You're lying." I shook my head, my voice fierce. "Check with the lawyer. Call him. He'll tell you. Kill me, and you'll end up with nothing but prison walls." Claire's face twisted with fury. "She's bluffing. Don't listen to her. Shoot her, Samuel." But doubt flickered in his eyes. I saw his jaw tighten, the gun wavering slightly. "Charity," he whispered, almost to himself. Emily seized the moment. With a scream, she hurled the metal tray again, this time slamming it against Samuel's wrist. The gun went off, the deafening shot ringing through the corridor, shattering a light fixture above. Sparks rained down. Smoke billowed thicker. Claire lunged again, her knife aimed at my heart, but this time, I was ready. I grabbed the fallen gun with trembling hands and pulled the trigger. The sound roared in my ears. Claire collapsed to the floor, her knife slipping from her grip, her eyes wide with shock. A red stain spread across her chest. Her final breath rattled out before she went still. Silence followed, broken only by the fire alarms. Samuel stared at her body, his face pale, his fury boiling beneath his skin. You killed her." I gripped the gun tighter, my hands shaking. "She left me no choice. And if you come closer, Samuel, I won't hesitate again." For the first time, my brother stepped back. Not from fear of the gun, but from the truth. His grand plan had collapsed. His partner was dead. The inheritance he lusted after was slipping through his fingers. Emily grabbed the gurney, her voice urgent. We have to move now. The building's going down. The ceiling above groaned, plaster raining down as flames licked through the cracks. The orderlies reappeared, this time helping push me forward. We barreled down another corridor, dodging falling debris, the heat scorching our skin. Behind us, Samuel's voice echoed through the smoke, broken and desperate. You'll regret this, Margaret. You'll regret the day you ever crossed me. But his threats faded as the fire roared louder, swallowing his figure in the haze. At last, we burst through the emergency exit doors into the night air. Firefighters swarmed the scene, spraying torrents of water into the flaming hospital. Nurses and patients huddled together, coughing, crying, some carried on stretchers. The paramedics rushed me to a safer area. Oxygen mask pressed over my face. Emily never left my side, holding my hand tightly, whispering, "You're safe now. It's over." But as I lay there, trembling beneath the flashing lights of fire trucks and ambulances, I knew it wasn't over. Not truly. Claire was gone. But Samuel was still out there, somewhere in the smoke and ruin, his hunger for revenge unquenched. And the $20 million, the fortune that had brought so much blood and betrayal, still hung like a curse over my head. I turned my gaze to the camera crews gathering, the police arriving, the flashing lights painting the night in red and blue. My voice was hoarse, but I knew what I had to say. My name is Margaret. I am 72 years old, speaking from Atlanta, Georgia. And if you've stayed with me this far, don't forget to subscribe, like, and click that notification bell, because more stories like mine are coming your way. Now tell me, from which part of the country are you watching tonight? The paramedics wheeled me into the ambulance as the crowd's murmur swelled. The sirens wailed, carrying me into the uncertain night. My story not yet finished. Because Samuel was still alive. And the inheritance war was only just beginning.